Welcome to Occultist Radio. Radio for the higher self. With your hosts, Vicky Adams and Jymie Darling. All right, we're back. Another fun week. Oorah, oorah, oorah. So this week we got a little something different going on. It's a bit different. It's a little bit going to be a bit, I think, as I play with the mic, controversial to many. We've already had a couple comments here and there saying that we're doing a little bit of a spicy show.
How so?
I have no idea. I thought you were going to do the striptease like 3 weeks from now. But first and foremost, we were actually lucky enough to have interviewed Leilah Wendell. Now, Leilah is someone that we consider to be one of the only experts in the field of high necromantic ritual and embracing death as an entity. We couldn't get her on the show live because of previous commitments for her, and we were just happy to get her on the show, period. It's really something out there, and I know that I took a bit of flack on the Facebook page for saying that she was one of the only real experts, and people were telling me
she is,
and she is, but people are telling me anybody who claims to be a real expert they have doubts about, and I wanted to clarify that she doesn't actually consider herself that. We do. We absolutely do. Leilah Wendell, across all our travels, we've never seen anybody who actually is as well versed in necromantic practices as Leilah is.
Mm-hmm. Many occultists have no idea what this really means, apart from some of the silly authors writing books that really are not schooled in this. We hope that tonight that we once again break through the ignorant taboo silliness of modern authors, or some modern authors, and the fear-based disinformation, and bring you a deeper understanding of a dying art and philosophy in its entirety. After our pre-recorded interview with Leilah, we will continue live with this subject.
And here's the thing, I wish we had her live, because I'm sure the chat room had a lot to ask her.
Yeah.
However, feel free to ask questions, and after the interview, Vicky and I will try to get to them the best as possible for you. We tried to ask as many good questions as we could. We were live on the network when we recorded this.
So I don't think we had. I think it was it too early, or
I don't know. Did we have Serenity?
I'm not sure who we have.
I think we did.
I don't think we had any feedback at that point. So.
Oh, well, okie dokie. I want to play Prayer to Azrael, which is Leilah's song, and then we will play Leilah's interview. And then we'll come back to you guys. Enjoy this interview. We will be on the board with you.
Mm-hmm.
And the shadow voice will speak your name. Azrael, through the darkness of the heat night, it resonates in cathedral caroons, tolling like some great faint bell, heard for miles afar, lulled on the swell of the wind. The symphony, mighty in sorrow, carried on huge, dark, and silent wings, obliterating all light, extinguishing every flame that strives to survive with immense unfurling. Your name, an attribute, a mortal gift, a blessing passed through many lips, and given meaning in their prayers. The word becomes an invocation, simply by emotion imbued in its speaking. Azrael, the sirens sing your name in ways that bring the angels and the demons to their knees. They cannot help but they have fallen. Your name stills the heart, silences the breath, cools the flame of longing from your lands. Azrael, thy name is love, never fleeting that kiss, that at eternity could be so quick, so demonstrative in but a moment. When time does not exist and forever becomes the blink of an eye, it's so much longer than these days. We speak your name like them, fall, like weed into your cold, cold arms, just waiting for that kiss. However fleeting it may seem, is longer than our days and fuller than our nights, and so much stronger than our dreams profess, and so much sweeter when life is willing to surrender to this song.
Welcome to this week's episode of Occultist Radio. We have a very special guest with us. We have Leilah Wendell with us. A little bit about Leilah. She's such an amazing person. Mm-hmm. As a child, Leilah Wendell grew up shadowed by a powerful and dark entity. Unremembered to her at first, the spirit became the host of numerous paranormal and extraordinary occurrences. These haunting events led her on a lifelong excursion into the astral world, more precisely, into the Valley of the Shadow. She has spent most of her life researching, writing, and teaching matters pertaining to the necromantic and metaphysical, particularly the gray areas where light and darkness merge in a most necessary and important balance. Through her unique relationship with the Angel of Death, Leilah endeavors to impart his message to all. A member of the Authors Guild and Authors League of America, Leilah Wendell is the world's foremost recognized researcher of death personifications and encounters. Author of 14 books and scores of articles on the subject, she is also a fine artist, poet, and originator of the Westgate Museum in Louisiana, the first and only gallery devoted exclusively to necromantic art and literature. Dedicated to Azrael, the Angel of Death, the gallery features fine art, prints, posters, books, cards, sculptures, artifacts, jewelry, and one-of-a-kind items. Leilah was born in New York and is best known for her groundbreaking title, Our Name is Melancholy, The Complete Books of Azrael, and over 40 years of research and documentation via the Azrael Project. She currently resides in Opelousas, Louisiana. This is one amazing woman, and we probably have not seen an actual necromantic expert since, I don't know, Middle Ages, if even then, because even they didn't actually grasp the entirety of it. And we here on Occultist Radio and our listeners are lucky enough to have Leilah with us tonight. Leilah, how you doing?
All right, how are you doing today, Jymie and Vicky?
We are doing.
I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for asking.
Likewise, having you here.
Yeah.
Oh, you have you've had such an amazing research. You really have. Leilah, I know a lot of people, they don't quite understand the whole idea of your research and how beautiful it actually is. And I know I know you talk about aligning oneself with death energy. Can you tell people what that is, why they would want to do that, and seriously, can anyone do that? Is that for everyone?
Anyone can do it. I mean, it's basically what you're attracted to. A lot of people feel an attraction to the death energy. It's just something they're born with. Some people are kind of oblivious to it. They don't even know it exists. But if you feel an attraction to it, you're drawn to it. It can be simple things at the beginning, drawn to cemeteries, drawn to work at funeral homes, drawn to work with the terminally ill. It can be a variety of different things. Basically, the death energy is very hard to describe. It's something you feel. It's an energy wave, an energy current that is very different than anything else out there. Very, very much quite the opposite of, I guess you would call it, the life current. But the death energy is a deep and dark type of thing that draws you in and draws you in and draws you in, almost to a point where it's more silent than silence itself. I know that kind of sounds a little crazy, but it's like a deep, deafening silence that you can hear things from other worlds. You hear more otherworldly things, then you kind of lose your connection with this life, and you lose the sounds of this life, and start hearing other things, and other voices, and other whispers. And some people, it cannot deal with it. Some people, it can cause depression. It can cause them to go a little crazy if you don't know how to handle it. Mostly that's because of their fear of it. If you go into something with fear, of course, you can't enter anything like this when you have any kind of fear in your heart. It just doesn't work.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Fear is a big thing. It really is.
Right. Fear is a killer of any kind of an experience that you can open yourself to, and something like this that's so innate in people, the fear of death, the fear of the greatest change of all time, basically the change from this life to the next. That's something that's so inbred in us socially, morally, spiritually. I think that's one of the hardest things for people to overcome. And if you can tune yourself to the death energy, you're going to find that all that fear, everything, all that conditioning gets washed away.
Wow. That's really profound.
That's actually immense.
Yeah.
To be able to lose that kind of fear.
Right, and that's basically what we've been trying to do by putting something in front of people that they fear the most, in the hopes of turning it all around to be something that they love the most.
Wow.
It's a hard deal for some, but for some people, it comes naturally. For some, it's a little harder. Like I said, it depends on conditioning.
A lot of people think that necromantic practice and necromancy are one in the same, and there's been a lot of ignorant and fear-based disinformation about both. Would you please clarify? Clarify between the two and some of the disinformation that's out there.
Well, anything you read from the olden times about necromancy, it's always brutal, it's always sacrifice, it's always really steeply based heavily in religion.
Right.
And what we do here, necromantic practice, has nothing to do. It bridges all religious lines or non-religious lines. There's no fear, which necromancy, if you read the text, the old text on necromancy, everything is fear, subservience, domination, sacrifice, everything that is just quite the opposite of something that you would approach with a loving hand, basically. Necromantic practice, we remove all of the religious context. It bridges all people, all races, all belief systems, and it is not steeped at all in any of those old texts. You got to remember, most of the old I don't even got to call them necromancy texts were based solely on the religions of the time,
right?
Particularly Christianity. And what we do is completely removed from that, which makes it accessible more to Christians, Jews, anybody else, atheists, Wiccan, pagan. It really doesn't matter. I personally try to erase as much of that as I can, because you got to realize where it was based in and what it stems from. And it stems from religious fear and persecution. And that's the basic difference. There's a good article on my website called Necromancy 101.
Excellent.
That gives the whole breakdown of everything that's different between necromantic practice and traditional necromancy.
Excellent.
Yeah. We'll give out some links towards the end of the show.
Oh yeah. It's
really hard. It's really hard to put in words because there's just so many different writers from the time that I pick point to point, and I can't really do it all in this type of context.
Oh no, this is just to make people aware, just as a quick,
We're introducing you to a lot of people who may not pick up a book just because of the title.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta realize this also. Necromancy basically was there for people to control the thing that they feared the most. They were always controlling the spirits. You were always raising the spirits to use them some sort of control force.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe you can raise spirits and control them. That's just arrogant and ignorant as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is just a way for, again, mankind to be dominant over something they don't understand.
Right.
Yes. And that's that's the biggest bone of contention between necromantic practice and necromancy.
Right.
The fear, the thing that you think you need to dominate your own fear instead of accept it and understand it.
Oh, that is such an awesome statement right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Leilah, we read your books, and the one thing that I loved is that you didn't draw a distinction in your work when you said black and white, and I loved that you put like the black and white in little colons, like black and white magic, and you don't say, oh, my work is white, or you don't say, which is awesome, because I just believe that energy.
I believe completely in balance. You can't do any kind of magic or anything in life without balance on both sides.
Exactly.
I like to gray.
Yeah, polarity.
What is?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
No, you phased out on me. I'm sorry, I lost you for a minute there.
Oh,
go ahead.
Okay. Knowing that you don't draw a distinction in your work, and I know this is a big sum up. Almost everything that to ask you is such a huge sum up because it's such an immense and gorgeous subject. But what is the beautiful enlightenment that you're actually aiming for in your work? Because there is an enlightenment to it.
The beautiful enlightenment, is that what you said?
Yeah, the enlightenment of your work. The enlightenment that you're heading for.
Basically, to remove the greatest fear of mankind, the fear of death. If we could just remove that fear, just think of how it would change the world if people did not fear death and dying.
Exactly.
Think of all the things that would change. It's just immense. We wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't have anger. We wouldn't have greed. We wouldn't have anything if you could just remove the fear of death. Because basically the fear of death is what causes so much human suffering.
Right.
If you can remove that fear, the fear that somehow or another, my life is over, there's nothing else. Either that or the opposite, I'm going to hell, or, thinking that you have to go to heaven and see your mother who you didn't like. Just something simple like that. Just removing the fear of death and making people realize that there is more out there, but it isn't what you've been told. The first thing you should do is just open yourself up and lose the fear. Take his hand. He'll show you many worlds and many possibilities that you can't even imagine exist. Wow. Don't believe everything you read in this world, because there's so much more. I'm one of these people that, look, I write books, yes, I realize that, but I'm the first person to tell somebody, don't believe everything you read in a book.
Right.
Experience it for yourself. That's the only true way to find enlightenment, is experiencing it yourself. I mean, too many people live their lives based upon books, and especially old books. You know what I mean? But I mean, you have to experience things yourself. You can't go blindly and still carry that fear with you. I don't understand how some people can be in the world that they're professed, that they're born of love, yet promote and promulgate so much fear in the world and like to keep it that way. And religion is one of the biggest proliferators of the fear of death. And if we can remove that, that would be...
That would really change.
Death is here to experience the human condition and take back that knowledge to further help him overcome the human condition.
That would actually change the entire world as we live in it.
Sure it would. I mean, people think, oh, it's just a minor thing, but no, it's everything. Everything.
Absolutely. I have another question for you.
And it's we got big questions.
Yeah, it's an immense one. Yeah, because we're basically, we're talking about your life work here. Can you tell us a bit more about Project Azrael, as well as, a definition of who Azrael is?
Well, Azrael is just one of many, many man-given names to the angel of death. And I'm not a stickler on the name. It's just you have to call something something.
Yes.
There are many, many, many names and many personifications. Azrael is just, at least I think, one of the more prevalently recognized ones for the angel of death, which comes from ancient Hebrew, obviously, which translates to help of God. Not God helps, but help of God. And that's the part of the question. I'm sorry. What was the other part of the question? I forgot the other part of the question. So wrapped up in describing things.
I'm sorry. Talk about the project. Your project Azrael.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Azrael project started in the mid-'70s as a newsletter, basically, to link people up who had had encounters with the angel of death. Mm-hmm. That was the basic heart of it. It grew into a networking thing, and it just grew and grew and grew. I never imagined so many people having encounters, coming out of the woodwork saying, I can't talk about this to my friends. I can't talk about this to my family. Right. They'll think I'm crazy. People especially from the terminally ill, industry, people that work in hospices and doctors in hospitals, nurses. I've had so many encounters, and they were all pretty much the same type of thing. So it just grew and grew and snowballed from there, and more people came out of the woodwork, and more people, and then like I said, we put it into what we call the Necromancy, where people could interact and, let's have somebody to talk to about this without feeling a little strange. Yeah. And from there it came on the computer now, and now it's just snowballed all over the place. We have thousands and thousands of encounters. We have a forum especially for the encounters now. And it's just too many to put in a book. I know I put out a book, Encounters with Death, but I could put out a book the size of 6 phone books by now of all the encounters that we've had. And that's basically what the Azrael Project is, to link up people who have had encounters, to share people's experiences with the death energy, with their encounters with the angel of death. And, anything and everything to do with necromantic practice that falls into the category of having to work with or for the angel of death, as I like to say. Who's your employer on your application? How long? Angel of death, 52 years. Just a little humor.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what I love is that so many people take themselves so seriously, and yet you've said over and over that you have to have a humor.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember when we had the gallery in New Orleans, I'd get people who would come in from all over the world. They were gossed up from head to foot. I mean, you name it, they had the gossip going on. And my husband and I, we're just sitting there on the stairs in our T-shirts and ripped up leggings, and, I'd be like, you're this person? And we got all gossed out. One woman even, bitched me out going like, you're not in robes. You're not very monastic. I thought you'd be more monastic. I'm like, what? And these people that were all gossed up and everything, when they come in, when they look around, they'd be terrified of the place. Which, you think, they'd be like, oh, is this for real? Or is this like, I'm like, no, it's for real. And they go around like a giggling bunch of schoolgirls, and I'm not talking about little children here. I'm talking about grown people.
Oh, no.
You never could tell, it was always strange when we had a place in Orleans. The people that would come in and be most affected were the people you would think would not understand it at all. We had a man come in once in a business suit, briefcase, and you never know who was coming by. He broke down into tears when he got in the gallery in front of the golem. Didn't say a word, but just, spent probably about 45 minutes to an hour just breaking down into tears, and then on his way out, he just thanked us from the bottom of his heart.
Wow.
We have no idea what happened, but something changed in his heart, in his mind. And these are the kind of people that it was meant for. It was not, a lot of people came and like, oh, yeah, this is cool, but that's not what it was all about.
Right.
We weren't there to be cool. We were there to affect people.
Yeah.
We tried to put them into an environment where they face the thing they fear the most, and hopefully something would click somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what some it did, for some it didn't, depends.
And just a quick question I just thought of. This has been part of your life since you've been really young. Were your parents? Were you able to talk to your parents about it? Were they supportive? During your younger years and older. You know what I mean?
Not when I was younger. I mean, look, when you're a child and you tell your parents you've seen the Grim Reaper in your house, they're going to really take you very seriously. My mother was very heavily Catholic, so it was a little hard to talk to her about it when I was younger because, it's dark, it must be the devil, so forth and so on. My father, I very rarely ever saw my father. He worked 7 days a week. Basically, when he came home, went to bed, I'd spend a couple hours with him on the weekends. But my mom passed away in 1981, so it was really strange because it started at the end there. She died of cancer, very long and drawn out.
Oh, no.
she was in her deathbed, basically, and I was and I could talk to her somewhat about it on and off, but mostly she didn't hear about it. But kind of towards the end, she was not lucid. She was only lucid here and there, brief little periods of time. But one of the periods of time she was lucid, she turned around and looked at me and she said, "You were right." And she died like a couple of seconds after that. Now my father, he only passed away last year. He was 90.
Right.
He had his own experiences after that with seeing many things. Like some of them are in the book. That one of the encounters there when I looked at some pieces in the book. But he's seen his share of things to not doubt anymore, and we talked extensively about it after that. My father knew everything that went on, and he believed completely. And I had no problems talking to him after that time.
Oh, that's good.
After my mother passed away, he saw so much shit that nothing would ever surprise him anymore.
Right.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. And the reason why I bet is because my grandfather passed away, and he held on. I wasn't in country, and I wasn't in state, and he held on until I got into state, and they kept saying they don't know how he's living, and they kept, my grandmother said she's waiting for his eldest granddaughter. And
I believe it. And when I know I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, they don't leave until they know that you can be safe and secure and happy. They won't leave unless they know their job is done. I mean, I believe everybody has a purpose, and I don't believe anybody leaves here until they fulfill that, even if the purpose is not known to them while they're alive. It's known to somebody else.
Right.
Now that's something, because at the end I came in, and all his functions had shut down, and he was still talking, and they asked him if he knew who I was, and he called me by the nickname that only he ever called me by, and you know, he got really sarcastic with him. He goes, "Well, of course I know who it is." And
that's great.
And the thing is that he kept he kind of went into like a semi-coma, and they told us to go in there and tell him that we were okay and that he could go. And he wouldn't do it until my mom and I went in there, and my mom and I were the last holdouts to go in there and tell him that. And I think maybe seconds after telling him that, his eyes opened. He looked at us. He looked at the foot of his bed, and he goes, "Mom," and he died.
Yeah, I mean, it was similar with my father. My father was here in a nursing facility because he couldn't cure himself anymore. And he, towards the end there, he was seeing these people coming in and out of the walls. So I'd be in the room and be like, "Who's that? Who's that over there? Why are they going that way?" He could see this parade of people just coming through the room and going out the wall. Mind you, he's 6 stories up. And then coming back in through the window again and going through another wall. And he'd be talking to people in the room, and it would just be me and him in the room. And then occasionally he'd look over to me and he'd be like, I'm going. But he was pretty much didn't really know what was going on around him other than that. These other people around. So the times he acknowledged me, I thought it was a little strange. But yeah, they see different things towards the end. That's for sure. I mean, I worked for a short time in a terminal part of the hospital. As you know, I have a funeral home background, but I much prefer working with the terminally ill because the things that they will see and the things they will tell you they see that they will not tell anybody on staff there because they don't want drugs pumped into it to lose the experience. Because, you know, you pump too many drugs into people, they can't see these things anymore. And that's what's wrong with so many terminally ill places. They pump them full of drugs thinking that they're going a little batty when, in fact, they're really having these experiences.
Well, we do the same to
share it with others.
We do the same to kids if they see something.
Oh yeah, they give medicine. They think, he has ADD or something else. It's great. But, that's the way it is. I mean, they don't want you to have any kind of experiences that they don't understand. If you're having things that they don't understand, there must be something wrong with you.
You know,
I went through my share of it in school. I was one of these kind of kids that would tell everybody anything that I saw. Until I was about 4th grade, and I learned not to do that anymore.
Oh, I bet. And here's the thing. And here's the thing, that is the most interesting, because when I was coming up in my teachings and stuff like that, one of my teachers told me, he said, he goes, I'll bet you there's a good 10% of people inside the insane asylums who have no business being inside the insane asylums. They see things and people committed them.
Oh yeah, I believe that. I mean, because you don't realize it when you're a kid, though, and you talk about things. Because a lot of times they figure, oh, you're imaginary friends, this and that. But if you constantly talk about it, and you're talking about things that other kids aren't seeing, and you don't realize it when you're a kid, just telling other people about it, children, adults, it doesn't matter. And then, one day you get pulled aside going, you shouldn't talk about that. You shouldn't say things like that. I'm like, why not? This is what's happening. I see, you can't say things like that. And as you get older, you get a little... oh, why? You get a little paranoid, and then you start to clam up, which is the worst thing that can happen, because then everything gets crushed down, and you never really get to share the experiences that you're seeing or experiencing with others that are probably experiencing it as well, but are too afraid to talk.
And that's where the fear comes in, too, because now you learn to fear what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, because if you're suppressed, or if you're trying to tell somebody something that you see, and you're constantly suppressed, it teaches you, oh, well, this must be something to fear then. I guess I should be afraid of it. Luckily, I never fell for that for too long.
Yeah, exactly. I got another huge question for you. I am so in love with the way you and Daniel in your books have such an amazing and beautiful insight into the Westgate. Not just your museum and stuff, but what the Westgate as a whole.
Right.
Would you share a bit of the intimate insight with us that you have on what the Westgate is?
Basically, I talk about the Stargates and the Earthgates in the book, and each one kind of aligns with a time in human history where we are ready to receive and accept specific types of information. Basically, the Westgate is aligned to a time where it's necessary now that mankind open up and accept and understand death and what he or she, depending on the belief system, is here to teach us. And the opening of the Westgate, in my opinion, began in 1978, and it continues until 2014. And it's a time where mankind has to come and reconcile himself with his own passing. If he doesn't, it's not going to be good when the North Gate opens. Let's just put it like that. I'd rather remain a little esoteric on that one. It's better described in the book.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you give it a date of 2014 instead of the 2012.
Let it run, yeah.
No, I'll be sleeping 2012.
And here's the thing, you know how many people are actually scared of 2012?
Oh, I know. There's people who are terrified. But it's like so many other things that we've had over the years when one or another calendar is over. Right. How many times do you remember people running around yelling the world's going to end? I remember tons of times.
Yeah.
And it's always a misunderstanding of somebody else's calendar system or belief system that call it or something like that. Yeah. I personally don't think the world is going to end in 2012. That's just when the Mayan calendar ends. It has nothing to do with the world ending. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. But it's interesting to watch the fear because everybody thinks they're going to die in 2 years, and they're actually scared to death. I mean, you remember, Leilah, there was a radio show, War of the Worlds.
Oh yes, oh yeah, and people fell for that one too.
Yeah,
and they killed themselves.
Oh yeah, people are easy. People are sheep. They're easy. They're easy. I mean, if you're going to put people react to fear better than react to love.
Right.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
I'm interested to see that in 2012. How many people jumped from buildings?
Oh, I'm sure there will be. I remember when I was, I was in junior high. Doesn't always there was something going on. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with biblical prophecy, and everybody believed that Jesus would come and the world was going to be over. And people, children, teenage girls slitting their wrists in the hallway.
Oh, no.
I mean, entertainment, it went like any other day, and people were dead because of their fear.
Oh, wow.
But that's just me. Anyway. Don't worry about 2012. Just go and get yourself a nice bottle of wine.
love that. It was kind of like 2000, the year 2000, and everybody...
Oh, yeah. Remember all the movies they made?
Right.
Independence Day, not Independence Day. What was that other one they made? I can't remember. But they made a bunch of bad movies about the end of the world. And it came and it went, and computers didn't even crash that bad.
Oh, I know. The banks were supposedly going to crash, and there were suicides. Suicides were high that day.
Right.
And it all had to do with... And what's so funny, and what I don't grasp, is when people have a fear of dying, they take their own lives.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They don't want to be here for the badness. What it is, they don't want to watch the world go down. Yeah. They just want to, let themselves go out before the world goes down. Which, you can kind of understand some people not wanting to see all the atrocities going on around them. But part of you being here, it's part of being here.
Yeah.
You know what's one of the most amazing things about this whole project that I just would like to mention? Because, early on people think, oh, it's so depressing, it's so morbid what you do, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
We have saved more people from killing themselves than a lot of other things out there.
I bet.
And
that's one of the things.
Yeah.
That's a great thing, too.
Yeah, that actually is.
Because I think that when you fear it, you kill yourself. When you embrace it and you have almost an intimacy with it,
Right.
You don't.
And you realize that, if you kill yourself, you're just going to have to come back and finish it until you get it right.
Exactly.
And that's one deterrent to killing yourself right there.
Exactly.
You're going to have to come back, and it may be worse.
That's right. Oh, man.
Now, we discussed this with you, just, Oh.
No, that's okay. No, go ahead.
Just prior.
Yeah.
You were in Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And that
we stayed for the whole thing. We stayed for the whole thing.
You stayed in.
We stayed there for the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
It was nasty.
Yeah, that was brutal.
120 degrees, no power, no food, no water, no gas, no body. The FBI in flak jackets was bringing us cat food. Because I had my cats there, my father, and my husband. The flies would eat you alive. The helicopters all day and all night. The smell of rotting garbage for miles and miles. There's probably only about 15, 20 of us in my area that stayed in. But we weren't allowed out of the houses in the day because they would patrol the streets, with the machine guns and everything.
Oh, wow.
So they knew that some of us were there, and they would, as long as we didn't come out at night, because at night it was just fair game. Anybody who was out on the street would automatically be taken out or taken away because of the looting and all the other problems that went on. But yeah, it was nasty. What would you like to specifically know? I have plenty of stories.
Golem.
Your golem.
About what happened to it?
Yeah. It was such a central point for, a lot of people.
And he changed so many lives.
It was built on a real skeleton, and it was consecrated to Azrael, and it has given many people many different messages, both, spiritually, and it was part of our ceremonies that we did every year, the central point of our ceremonies. It was pretty much a very special headpiece of the gallery. Right. Unfortunately, we didn't flood, but we had 165-mile-an-hour winds, which took roofs off, took walls down, the windows all flew out.
I don't think people were aware of the wind factor. I don't think I was. I don't
No, I feel all people really know is what happened to the lower Ninth Ward, unfortunately.
Right.
But there's a whole lot more to the city than that. The parts that didn't go under were taken out by wind. I mean, it literally knocked houses off the foundation down to the ground.
Idea. Yeah.
One house would stand, one house would be on the ground. We had 165-mile-an-hour like cyclones that would rip through the uptown area.
Oh, no.
And the pressure was so weird, the windows were really sucked out. There was no broken glass in the house. The windows were sucked out.
Oh, my God.
Daniel and I were standing upstairs. It's a big, it's one of those big old Victorians.
Right.
13-foot ceilings up and down, and we're up on the top floor in the back of the house. The back wall, there's a door and a window. The back wall looked like a horror movie. It was breathing in and out. It was moving in and out. I've got my body up against it. I'm holding the door from blowing in. Dan was fetching the piece of plywood. We had to nail some plywood bracing to the ground to keep the back wall from blowing out.
Right.
It was a trip. It was a trip. We could see the water coming up. It was probably maybe about a block and a half, 2 blocks down from the house.
Oh, wow.
So it never quite made it to us, but when it was all over and we went outside, there wasn't much of anything left.
Right.
There wasn't much of anything left at all. I had mattresses in my yard. I don't know where they came from. I mean, there were automobiles on my back garage. I don't know where they came from. It was just a disaster. The front of the house, I had wind chimes. Nothing even touched.
Wow.
Nothing touched on the front of the house. this tornado or whatever it was came through the back and just ripped the backs off all the houses.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God, I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an experience. It was definitely an experience. But,
and I can't...
I'll never evacuate forever a hurricane ever again.
Right.
I can't really see it. You're such a tiny girl holding a wall that's breathing. I mean, just the visual of that.
Yeah.
You notice how much strength you get when you walk through. It's that adrenaline kicking in, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, I've been through several hurricanes in my life, but nothing ever that bad. That was just, you know, we never left. I mean, every time there was a hurricane in the city, we never left. It was always nice because everybody'd leave, have the whole city to ourselves. It was nice and peaceful. And this time, not a lot of people really did initially leave because too many false alarms, you know, yelling the sky's falling after a while. Pretty much everybody evacuated at the very end, and they spent the entire thing sitting on the interstate, which I'd rather be in what's left of the house than sitting on a flooded interstate under 20 feet of water. That's just, you know, my rule. And then, of course, we moved out here, and shortly thereafter, we got Gustav right on top of us. But at least this house holds. A lot to be said for newer houses. 200-year-old houses look great and everything, and withstood probably plenty of hurricanes in that town, but that was its time.
Wow. You know, during that time, a lot of people say that a lot of energies passed through at that point. Were there any experiences with the energies that were coming through? Because, you know, anytime that there's a traumatic event or there's something that's really just, you know, off the charts of normal, a lot of people, you know, and I'm not talking about the fear-based ignorance of the people that were going, that's because it's God's punishment, because that's bull.
Yeah.
That's bull.
Yeah, I heard that line too.
That's bull. That's absolute bull. But did you feel any energies?
To tell you the truth, shortly after 9/11, actually, the city changed dramatically. I mean, one of the things that attracted me to that city, and I was only there for 3 days on vacation originally, and that convinced me to move there shortly thereafter. The city had such a spirit, such an energy, such a soul. I've never been to an actual physical location that you could feel its living soul. That's what attracted me to live there in the first place. It started changing over time. I don't know exactly what caused it. I have no idea, but it was losing its soul. It was struggling to stay alive. This was before the storm. It was struggling to keep its identity, struggling to stay alive. And a lot of the people that lived there their whole lives could feel that, and they kind of moved on and went other places. And, you know, different people were coming in. You would even say to them, do you feel anything in the city? And they'd be like, no, not really. It's just kind of dirty. But the city kind of lost its soul. I don't know what it was. And it was shortly thereafter that everybody was kind of noticing it. It was shortly thereafter that Katrina came in and like washed it clean. You want to hear something really weird?
What's that?
The day before the storm hit, we put our house on the market the day before the storm hit because we were ready to leave too.
You're kidding.
We had a for sale sign up on the house the day before it hit. The day after, it was gone. That was it.
Oh,
that was weird.
God, isn't that odd?
I always say to myself, never fall out of love with where you live. You never know the consequences.
Wow.
Because a lot of people figure, oh, you ran away from the storm. And that's one of the things that I hate, because some people are like, oh, you're deaf and you ran away from the storm. Like, no, we were on our way out anyway. We were looking, I mean, it was getting, like I said, it was changing so much. It was just not the laid-back, you know, anything-goes spiritual city it was. It was getting very gentrified, too, which was another thing. So we were actually looking to go to Galveston, which is like New Orleans used to be. And that was why we put the house on the market, and the day after, well, the rest is history.
Wow, that is really something. And your now you've made a new golem, yes?
I made a new one. It's not quite finished yet, but it's all there except for the wings at this point.
Oh, wow.
The wings are something I'm still kind of working on. We've moved around several times since the storm, so I've never really had a studio space until we got here. Because we went to the country for a while, which was a big mistake. We thought living in the city all those years, we wanted to get away from it all.
Right.
We got away from it all, 25 miles from the nearest store. To get a stick of butt. That got old very fast.
Yeah.
So we only spent 10 months out there, and then we've been here now about 3.5 years in Opelousas. But I'm starting to get back to work on it now. And pictures should be coming on the website soon.
Can people still visit? I mean, is there a gallery space or?
Well, we're working on that too.
Oh, okay.
What we're working on doing is I don't really have this space here, so we're working on a building outside of my home.
Okay.
Something downtown in Occult. This house is not really the same kind of energy. If you ever someplace in Orleans, you know what I mean? We just can't do that in this kind of house.
Yeah.
It's not a 200-year-old Victorian. It just doesn't lend itself well.
Yeah.
So we're finding a place in Occult where we can do something.
Right.
That'll be in the future, though. Right now, we're pretty much in virtual space right now.
Right. Which is good enough, you know, for a lot of us.
Right. We're kind of taking a little sabbatical. After all we've been through, we just need to step back a little bit.
No.
Take a little sabbatical.
Well deserved, yeah. Your artwork is, it's really stunning, and it conveys such a loving, an intimacy of an insight into death, the death energy. Can we talk a bit about that? Of course, they can go online now and see your work, because as you said, you're still working on the physical space.
Well, all the work is on the website. I mean, you pretty much see everything that we've ever done on the website. I know it's not the same person, but it's there.
It's good enough, yeah.
And you give it, because a lot of people are mostly visual.
Yeah.
I know. But it works better in a real space.
Yeah, I imagine it does.
But it's not the same. You got to be in a place to feel the energy.
Yeah, I'll give people
any energy sitting in front of a screen.
Yeah. Well, at least give people something to look forward to in the future. Symbolism Muerte, for me and Jymie, it holds a really special place, and love for us. And there's been like a kind of like a resurgence in her popularity in the mainstream media lately, in pagan religions. We'd love to know your insights in, there, and into giving her.
I didn't get any of that. I got insights. I didn't get any of that question.
I'm sorry. Symbolism Muerte, she's got a different kind of energy, and we'd like to know your insights, into her, her special connection to the energy with her. Do you make a distinction between that energy of the Muerte to the
You know how Symbolism Muerte...
I don't know how to phrase it now. I'm having a hard time phrasing it for some reason.
Symbolism Muerte.
What it is, ladies, I can't hear you. I'm hearing every other word. You're kind of phasing out on me, ladies. I heard part of that question. I heard insights. That was the only word I heard.
Okay.
Santa Muerte. She's got... Santa Muerte has had such a resurgence.
Oh, okay, I hear you now.
Okay. And there's such a great love of her, especially by Vicky and I, that there's the views specifically within Santeria of her, but I know she's more than Santeria.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I just view her as a female personification of the angel of death.
Yeah.
I think it's great that there's a resurgence of that going on, and that it's coming into this country as well. Unfortunately, it's also being attached a lot to the patron saint of drug dealers and that sort of thing.
No.
If we can get away from that and just realize that that's been a part of Latin American culture long before it was associated with drug dealers.
Right.
Just something how it got associated. I don't know how, but I think that's changing, though, because more and more it's coming into this country, more and more it's being translated into basically being a female interpretation of the angel of death just from the Latin culture. So I don't really see any difference between Santa Muerte and Azrael per se, other than male and female distinguishing attributes. That's really about it, and maybe the way that she is worshipped. She is really revered and worshipped like the Virgin Mary down there. But there's not, I'm very, I don't really go for the worship thing. I don't believe people should bow down and worship. I think they should respect and honor and, open themselves up to. But if it's a way to get people to help them over their fear of death, do what works for you. Do what works for you.
Oh, exactly. And she may be that gentle.
Right.
That gentle...
portal, I think.
Portal, yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we have a lot of people that, come to our site that really were unfamiliar with Fenway until it started to get a resurgence in this country, and they have gotten the books and everything that do the rituals too. But I really feel that that's not for them. They want to venerate her in their own way, which I think is the way it should be done.
Right.
I think that's great. Anything that works for you to help you integrate the death energy into your life, to accept it, to love it, to embrace it. I think it's just wonderful. I think it's a fantastic thing to see.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to see more of it. I have a whole altar here in the house.
Wow.
I think it's great. I have the two of them together,
Oh, that must be a sight.
That must be astounding.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I've not brought up on Latin culture in particular, and I quite honestly never had heard of it until a few years back. And, it was in my research, but I never paid much mind to it because it was not something that I really had ever heard of anybody worshiping before.
Right.
And now that you see it out there, I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Of course, there's a lot of misinformation about her energy as well, but...
Well, anytime, look, it comes from a Catholic country, of course it's going to be misinformation about that. They don't want, the Catholic country they don't want her to be venerated as a saint.
Yeah.
Because they view, again, she represents fear to them.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. But, it's the Catholic religion that has aligned her to the drug dealers and the drug lords. It's not the Latin culture.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because people will believe what they hear from the religious sector.
Yeah, I guess they're using her as a scapegoat as well.
Exactly. Just like they use the angel of death in this culture and the Arabic culture and Jewish culture and just about anywhere else, maybe except for Indian culture. That's about it.
Right.
They kind of accept both sides of the coin.
That's interesting to bring up too, because you've actually studied a lot of almost all the religions and their dealings with the angel of death.
Right.
And most of them are fear-based and such. And in your books, you go through some of that where you're almost calling them out for their ignorance.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no point in couching it. People will believe what they're told until they're told something else. It makes them question. If you can get people to question one thing, you can get them to question a whole bunch of different things. And I think people should innately be skeptical at the beginning. They should think for themselves, feel for themselves, and stop being told what to do. And if I have to push it in your face to make that happen, so be it.
Right.
I mean, I didn't get into this to be polite to people. I got into this to open their mind. If it means bashing my head once in a while, you got to do it.
Oh, you and I would get along so well. I tell people if I haven't pissed you off today, just stand in line. I just haven't gotten to you yet.
That's right. I mean, there's still a lot of New Yorkers stuck in me, and I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
If I was like a lot of the people down here that just, sheeple, basically, no, I could never live like that. They say ignorance is bliss. Maybe it is, but I don't want to be among that blissful herd.
Exactly.
No, not at all. I'd rather feel for myself and think for myself and be told how to feel and think.
Yeah, there's an element of...
There's no purpose in life if you're a sheep.
Yeah.
You'll be led to the slaughter.
Yeah, I like that element of control.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not so much control, it's just, understanding.
Yeah.
Connection with something other than what people tell you.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, even though I write books, I say, don't believe what I say.
Right.
Experience it yourself.
Yeah.
One of the greatest quotes that she actually put in her book was that death is a great teacher, but life is a poor student.
That's the truth.
Right.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Isn't that awesome?
Right.
Because people aren't learning exactly from both energies. They actually are quite afraid of learning a lesson from death, and I don't quite I know it's the fear of the religion and things like that, but I'm wondering if it's more along the lines of to learn the lesson from death would also cause them to have to look inside themselves and learn more about themselves.
Well, one of the biggest things I think people are afraid of is not always so much, but if they change or they have to integrate a new concept into their belief systems, they'll have to change everything about their belief system. Right. And that's even scarier to some people than accepting death. Because if you say you're somebody who doesn't believe in the angel of death, one day, boom, it's in front of you, then it makes you question everything you've believed in your whole life. And people don't want to have to go through that because that's a lot of work. That's life-altering. They have to change everything. And to a lot of people, that's very scary.
It is, and we do a lot. We do a lot of shows, and a lot of our shows are really pinpointed into the idea of enlightenment, and that the only true way to get enlightenment is to look inside the self, so that you can not kill your shadows, because that's not going to happen. That's an impossibility. But to embrace them, and
right.
And the necromantic practice has the idea that you must embrace the death.
I agree. You have to. You can't take a half of yourself and try to suppress it and stuff it in a corner somewhere. It's just going to explode in your face in the end.
Yeah.
You're made of both parts. You have to merge those two parts together. Even if they don't like each other very well, you've got to merge them together. It's a cohesive whole, because you're not a half person, you're a whole person.
Right.
It's your shadow side, your light side, your gray side, every side of you. Even the sides of you might not like yourself. It's in there for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. I one of the greatest things she also said was anthropomorphic personification.
It's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. Say that 5 times fast.
No, I'll try not to.
But I think people are afraid to look at that.
Oh, sure. People don't want to believe that things exist outside of their own little realm of what they have in their own little personal space. Like I said before, if you put something in there, square peg in a round hole, every hole has to be different shape now. It's just, that's what I've encountered mostly in what I do. It's not so much people saying, oh, well, guess whatever. But if I accept this, then I have to also accept this and this and this and this, and I'm not ready for that just yet. I think the world has changed a lot. I really have seen progress, which I didn't think I'd see in my lifetime. I always say to myself that I'm just a planter of seeds. I'm never going to live long enough to see the tree grow, but I'm seeing saplings, and it makes me very happy, because it's a much different world, at least to me, maybe because I'm so involved with, in what I do in the research. But I don't know if you see it as well, but I see less fear of death in people these days than, say, there was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe
I don't know if you can say that from your end, but I'd be interested to know if you see it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of general fear in the world these days, but I'm talking about fear of death. And I think there's a general sense of more openness nowadays than there used to be.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think the ones that do fear it are the most outspoken, though.
Yeah, that's true, but I think people are also saying, I'm not listening anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over here and see what I can find over here. They're less likely to be followers than they used to be. I'm sure you're always going to have your diehards, but I think people are a little bit more exploratory.
No.
The big movement has gotten so bigger, that's why Muerte is coming out into the world more openly.
Yeah.
I think the world is changing. It's just slow to change.
Well, you're starting to see people. You're starting to see the major organized religions that were the perpetrators of fear starting to lose their control.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes them even tighten the screws down harder, which makes thinking people go like, you look even sillier now.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, like they're louder, but it's kind of like not creating the desired effect, because people are not as complacent as they used to be.
Right.
And accepting,
the world's changing. You get a lot of it thanks to the internet too, because now so many different cultures can interact on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You didn't have that before. If you're exposed to a lot more things than you used to be, the world has gotten larger. Right. Your mind has to stand with it.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people are now, podcasts and Facebook and such like that. These people that were in small towns that were very heavily controlled by one religion are now exposed to other religions and can be exposed to different thought processes and energies. And even though they don't get to experience it firsthand, at least it's an experience.
Sure, no, that's where it starts. I mean, and unfortunately, a great part of the world is small little towns. The cities are few and far between. Most of it's small little towns, and that's where you have a lot of the closed-mindedness. But like you say, that is changing thanks to the internet. And they're trying to hold on, though. ghosts, the people in control, they're trying to hold on, but people are breaking away from that, which is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And then for all those
Enlightenment, intelligence, opening your mind, there's never anything bad about that. The opposite is what causes problems.
Right, exactly. And the greatest thing is that, you know, anybody listening to our show, you can now open yourself up to the necromantic practitioning at westgatenecromantic.com, because that is Leilah's site, and her site will open your eyes big time to exactly what necromantics is and the concept,
complexities
and the
behind
complexity.
it.
Oh God, and the beauty, and the intimacy, and the beauty, and your books, and so on and so forth. I could go on forever about you. I really could.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'm enjoying talking with you ladies. I mean, you know, just remember, sweet is death who comes like a lover. My favorite line.
I love it. Are there any other further tips and guidance you can give to our listeners to begin their journey and alignment to this current, you know, if they wish to begin?
I think the easiest thing to do, and this may sound like a silly little exercise, but it works for people.
Right.
If you're uncomfortable with going to a cemetery or something like that, or just don't feel it's right for you, take yourself to a dark room, a nice dark room, all alone, in the house, wherever you are. Outside, you can do it outside too. Just make sure you're all alone. Close your eyes. Put your arms out on either side of you. Lay on the ground. Put your arms out on either side of you. And no matter what you feel, don't open your eyes. It's a simple exercise. It's the very first simple exercise to someone who is completely unfamiliar with this, doesn't know if they're ready for it or not. Just something simple as that, no matter what you feel, any touches or any breezes or anything, not open your eyes.
Because most people will be tempted to open their eyes immediately.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Try that. That's very simple, right?
Yeah.
It's not just for the necromantic current, but it's to open yourself to anything spiritual.
Yeah.
But it's the first little tiny baby step.
Right.
After that, maybe you could take it to another level, and it depends on, you know, what happens the first time, what level you're ready to go to next.
Exactly. It's a little testing ground.
Some people find their resonance starts in the cemetery, or starts, you know, working with the terminally ill, or working with the dead, or whatever your path is. But that's the simplest thing, because I know a lot of people out there may be completely unfamiliar with this. They say, oh, well, I don't know if I'm ready. Just try that simple little thing.
Right.
It works really nice if you're outside, way in the middle of the woods, completely dark out. You know, they work simply really, because sometimes doing it in your own home, you're a little too secure. You want to remove a little bit of the security issue.
Right.
I mean, I don't advise you laying around naked unless you know the area is really secure. That can work too. That can work too, though.
And, you know, and here's the thing. You say it's a very simple little step, and yet, you know, for a lot of people, when they go to do it, they're going to find out that's actually really difficult for them.
Well, it's like I say, it's a start. It's a way to tell if you're ready to even start the journey. I mean, if you're going to be the kind of person who's going to open your eyes every time you feel a little breeze on you, well, maybe it's time to just keep doing this until you can get to that point. But it's so different for everyone. You can't really say for every person what's right. This is just something that seems to work across the board and be very simple. At least sounds very simple. Try it.
Yeah, it is. It is. But and in a sense, you're not only taking control, but you're also giving control.
Exactly. You're just giving yourself, you're putting yourself out there and saying, if there's anything there, I'm here, I'm open, touch me.
Now that's interesting. And the thing, you know, we ghost hunt too sometimes, and we are on a paranormal radio station, ParaQuest Radio, and I wonder, I bet that would be wonderful when going on investigations. They say hunting. I actually don't like the word hunting because it sounds like I'm going to shoot them.
Yeah, I know. I live in hunting country, so I know. That would work really well for something like that too. That's what I mean. It can work for a lot of different things. It's not just like a little necromantic tool. It's anything to do with the spiritual realm. This kind of exercise would work, and see how open you are to it. You often find that a lot of the mediums, the ones that are very good, they have no problem with this. That's how you kind of tell a good medium. They have no problem with this. The ones that are phony mediums, they can't do this. They can't, because they're afraid to get caught up by the real thing.
Oh, wow. Wow, and I bet experiences are enhanced by just that simple exercise.
Something simple as closing your eyes is
right.
It's weird. It works, It just works. It just works.
Wow.
Well, try that on your next ghost investigation thing. See how it goes.
You know what? I think I will. I believe I will because I know we don't have any problems with just laying down, and I'll lay down in the middle of a cemetery. It doesn't it doesn't bother me. I'll lay.
Oh, well, you're ready for it. That's why.
I used to go to the old cemeteries over in Europe when I was stationed over there, and I'd actually lay down, and then I'd go to sleep.
Oh yeah, I've spent many a night in the mausoleum. Many a night.
And people think I'm crazy, and no, I'm not crazy. I just get so relaxed, and it just doesn't bother me. But
it's so peaceful.
And it's so peaceful. But my dreams are so intense.
Right.
Right. I've never heard any place more silent in my entire life.
Exactly.
Than down in the tomb. You don't even hear the sounds of life. They just disappeared. At least they did for me. You could literally hear the sounds of the streets and the sounds of cars and everything going away. It's like you're moving. It's like you're on a train and you're moving away from the sound. And then different things. And even though you're right on a freeway or a road, you no longer hear it anymore. You just hear different things. And, it depends on the person. When they're up to that and they're ready for that, then that's something you can try next.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that your dreams become more intense in situations? Well,
yeah, definitely. I mean, they're completely opposite of the dreams I would have most of the time at home. Yeah, definitely different dreams. More intense, more realistic, a lot more astral projection experiences go on then. And it's a different environment. It all depends on the cemetery, too, because it depends on the energies that are in each place. Every part of this land literally is a cemetery. We're walking on the dead every day of our lives, but some places are stronger than others.
Right.
It's just like ley lines in England. There are power points in the earth just like there are in the stars. It depends on where you're at.
Yeah. So there's a lot
of...
Okay, no.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, there are certain places that I know you can feel things stronger. It's just it's a certain point. I know in England there's plenty of them. When I was in England, oh my God, some of the places out there you can literally feel the energy going, like you had your finger stuck in an electric socket. Then some places it's just dead air. And it doesn't always have to be a cemetery. It depends on what kind of energy you pick up on. Everybody picks up on a different energy, like dowsers and mediums can predict. It depends on what you pick up on.
Right.
My voice is going.
When I was in England, one of the strongest places I was at was actually an Air Force base that I was stationed at. And
okay, which Air Force base do you know?
RAF Lakenheath.
Oh, okay, that's a very intense area over there.
Yeah, and it was a crash base in World War II, and I worked out on the flight line, building bombs, and our grenade house was actually the old morgue, and there were energies that went back and forth to that morgue, unbelievable, including a guy that we still call Lakenheath Charlie, who actually is helpful, and he backs up your trucks for you, and you actually think that there's actually a flight line guy out there helping you, and you get out to thank him, and there's nobody.
Now, England they've got a lot of energy going on over there. That's probably the most haunted place I've ever felt in my life over there. There's so much going on. There's so many different energies crossing constantly. You don't know where to go left, go right, because there's so much that draws you over there. There's places like that here as well. When I lived up in New York, there was several particular places. There was an old Revolutionary War trail that was up on Long Island. And anybody that lived on that area there, houses and everything, people would go out in their yard, middle of the afternoon, hanging their laundry. They'd see full reenactments of the Revolutionary War going on in their yard. You'd see people bleeding, and people screaming and shooting. And this was not just one person that saw it. This was slews of people that lived from, say, maybe 15 miles worth of town there. So there are areas that are just somewhat more active than others. I guess it depends on the charge that's left behind.
Yeah, and some of that may just be an impression, as well, because of the intense energy,
So don't stay around, that's for sure. I wish we had more of that out here in Occult. Occult is pretty dead.
Oh, no.
Need to use a pun.
Do you do much work on the astral?
Excuse me?
Do you do much work on the astral plane?
I used to be honest with you. I haven't done a whole lot recently because I felt I needed to do more work here. I spent so much time out there. I felt it's time to be... He's always told me that I needed to be more grounded.
Right.
My belief was always, head in the clouds and feet on the earth. Most of the time I had everything in the clouds. So now I think I've got more everything grounded these days. I'm doing more work down here than I am on the astral. I think my work on the astral for now is kind of on hiatus.
Right.
I think it's more important to work here. I think here's where real progress needs to be made.
Well, I think that's where your message is going to have the greatest impact.
Well, because if you don't get the work done here, you got to come back.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. No.
Oh, this is my last time around. I won't be back.
That's what we say.
Oh, that's what I'm always saying. I'm so done.
We're so done, yeah.
We're old souls. It's time for us to retire.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or say to anybody? Any last things that you want to get out?
Just that open yourself up and realize that there's so much more out there waiting for you than what you're being told, and it's better and it's sweeter and it's more gentle and more kind than anything you could ever be told in this life. Just put your hand out, put your heart out, just open yourself up, and you'll be surprised it will hit you back.
Right.
It's all good. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah.
Stop being so afraid to live. What is that old proverb? I'll try to paraphrase. You can't really enjoy your life fully until you come to accept and appreciate your own death.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I truly believe that, and I truly believe. We have so many unhappy people in this life. Maybe if they just open up and embrace their own eventuality, they lose so much sadness, so much unhappiness, because they realize they're free. They no longer have to be held captive by fear.
Right.
That's so intense. That really is.
And that's basically what I have to say. I mean, everything else is, it's all wrapped up in the same thing, fear versus love. It's better to love than to fear.
Right.
I don't want to sound like John Lennon.
No.
That should end it. But thank you very much for having me, ladies, and you do a wonderful program here, and I hope to get out to see you soon.
We'd love to have you out here.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
And thank you so much, Leilah, for coming on to the program. And again, it is
my pleasure.
Westgate Necromantic. Her books are on there. Her artwork is on there. Her posters are on there. Her music is on there. Their poetry is on there. Her and Daniel's collaborations and his own work.
Yeah.
Everything about the Westgate, just wonderful information.
And music.
And that's Westgate.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Leilah. And we wish you well.
Thank you. Same to you.
We hope we get a chance to talk to you again.
All right.
Yeah.
Same here. I mean, I'd love to come and see you, ladies, and I'll be on your website, and I'll come and listen to your radio shows.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You and Daniel take care.
Yes.
All right. You too. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Welcome back to Occultist Radio on the world-famous ParaQuest Radio Network. That was a great honor to have Leilah on the show.
It absolutely was.
Absolutely was. Tonight we are talking about necromantic ritual and some of the entities of death. Now, there's big differences here. Because necromancy is a form of magic in which the practitioner seeks to summon operative spirits or spirits of divination for multiple reasons, from spiritual protection to prophecy. However, you got to figure that since the Renaissance time, necromancy has come to be associated with the black art.
Yes, it has.
Killer. More broadly with black magic and demon summoning. I'm just absolutely ready to puke with the whole demon summoning demonologists out there.
Oh, I know. It seems to be such a, I don't know if I want to call it a fad, but it seems that every second person interviewed is a demonologist.
Yeah, it is. I swear to God, you can swing a bat and kill about 5 of them.
And it seems to be tacked onto this ghost hunting phenomena that's sweeping the world right now.
Yeah,
it's really picked up in popularity. But this demonologist and the information they give is just so what would you call it?
Regurgitized fear-based ignorance from the Bible.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Or some kind of little fluffy thing you read as a kid.
Yeah.
Now necromancy is also in fantasy entertainment, meaning, and they show it raising the dead and stuff like that. Now, rituals actually such as these, the necromancy rituals, involved. Became grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. You had a few people that just went too far. They really did. Instead of taking it like the surrounding themselves with the morbid aspects of death and the consumption of unsalted, unleavened black bread.
Mm-hmm.
And unfermented grape juice, which symbolized decay and lifelessness. They went as far as taking part in mutilation and consumption of corpses, and that's really where I think a lot of people...
That has absolutely nothing to do with necromancy anyway.
Yeah, but I think that's where a lot of people got the bad idea of it.
Yeah, no doubt. But really, that is where the tales of the obscene and fear come from. The few who did this, if any. For all that is known, this could have been the church's way of condemning mediums, psychics, and diviners. In modern time, necromancy is used as a more general term to describe the pretense of manipulation of death, and generally has a magical connotation. Modern seances, channeling, spiritism verge on necromancy. When the invoked spirits are asked to reveal future events or to speak, that is what it is meant to be.
For the most part, necromancy is a long-dead art form of brutality and desecration that was perverted into a ghastly and fiendish philosophy. But necromantic practices, on the other hand, that's a whole different ballpark out there. They are utterly different from each other. Necromantic practices are really a beautiful growth of the self through the bridging of the veils of life and death, right, embracing the shadows, instead of trying to run from them or oppress them or kill them, because that's impossible. Unfortunately, necromantic practices is also a dying philosophy, and mainly brought about due to fear and disinformation, and written by fools and self-absorbed so-called experts. No, I'm seriously. There's, and you know who I'm talking about. There is one out there that just
exactly who you're talking about.
I'm telling you, he fries my griddle.
Yeah, we shall not name names.
He burns my toast. He really does.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, unfortunately, since a lot of people don't know about Leilah,
yeah,
they go right to these, and there's a couple of them actually. There's two that really,
yeah,
it's too much. It really is. There's two, and I
mean, Leilah lives. This is her life. Do you know what I mean? This is part of her psyche. I mean, it's part of who she is. It's not something she picks up every now and then to, show how cool she is, or
exactly
show off.
But the thing is that Leilah is somewhat of
a recluse.
A self-proclaimed recluse
right now. Yeah.
Well, she rebuilt her energy and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean that whole New Orleans.
So she's not out there for the shock value of it. She's not out there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. She's
not
so
out there for that.
She's so down to earth. I mean, I remember her saying like a while back, a lot of people that used to visit her gallery house in New Orleans were totally shocked that they would find her and Gavin, on the stairs dressed in jeans and t-shirts.
Oh, exactly.
And these people are dressed to the nines, and I think that a lot of them were very kind of, I don't know, taken back and a little probably upset with them. But I mean, and I remember her saying, she'd have people in suits who'd go in there and you wouldn't expect them, and it would be a totally moving, cathartic experience for them. And that place was for those people. You know what I mean?
Now, necromantic practitioners do seek to raise the dead. Do not seek to raise the dead for the purpose of divination. In necromantic practices, they're actually really true magicians. They really are. Mm-hmm. They use bones and cadavers, but only for the purpose of being a host.
Right.
It is then that the magician is trying to gain a relationship with a potent spirit of death, and it is the purpose of this to understand the death entity and energy. And truly one cannot fully live without embracing death first, otherwise one's life is controlled by the fear of death, and only by releasing this fear does one free themselves. Now we're going to take a slight break there. I want to play Armin Ra, who plays the theremin. And when we come back, we're going to go deeper into the necromantic rituals and some things that you can do. And later on in the show, we're going to actually do a 9-day type prayer ritual to Santa Muerte.
Yes.
So enjoy Armin Ra, and when we come back, we're going to have some good practical information. Beautiful. Alrighty.
Okay.
Didn't she have a grandma?
Well...
I'm like putting you on the spot right now.
I think everyone pretty much has had a grandma.
But didn't your grandma do fun things?
Well, I mean, sometimes I question if it was my child's mind that fantasized about this, but I'm pretty sure I know what I saw. I recall visiting my grandmother in Greece. My mum's a really, diehard, Greek Orthodox Christian woman. But her mother was something else. Her mother and her cousin, I think, were deemed the village witches. They lived on an island, in Greece. And they conveniently lived across the road. It's a very tiny dirt road from the cemetery and the church. And in Greece they have, and I'm sure in a lot of places in Europe, they have like these charnel houses, where they dig up the bones after like a year because the land is pretty scarce. And they'd pack them in these little wooden boxes and stack them in this little mausoleum type building. And these boxes were pretty old, so there'd be bones spilling out all over the floor and whatnot. And once I recall walking into a room and catching my grandma tossing some bones in front of her. I didn't get to talk to her about it, but I mean, as I grew older, I realized what she was doing, because my mother caught us, and I was kind of yanked from the room, but so I'm suspecting she was practicing some
necromancy
form of necromancy, yeah, because why else would she be tossing bones in front of her, you know what I mean? So, and I asked my mother, but it was totally off topic, so it was a shame, because I would have loved to have talked to my grandmother about this. So I feel a little miffed that I was denied that opportunity, but it's just a little story anyway, yeah, so, yeah. I just wonder why my mother turned out so different.
Maybe we should throw the bones.
Maybe we should. It's like that game, those knuckle bones,
yeah.
When you toss them, it kind of makes you wonder where the origins,
yeah,
derive from, yeah. Anyway, so just to continue on, so to begin this philosophy, one must first eradicate fear and ignorance of themselves. So many people enter into cemeteries now, and we see so many of the shows, go running and act terrified. We listen to investigators, occultists, and practitioners talk about how they're frightened, and whatnot. They just carry on.
Why do it then?
Yeah, why carry? They carry on. Yeah, why do it? Like I said, I think it's because it's kind of like the in thing to do right now.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing more than a thrill-seeking, and I mean, to some degree, probably insulting to the dead,
and
death,
to the entity of death,
and the entity of death, yeah. So the freedom from fear is a feeling that no one can fully describe. It allows you a greater understanding, a more beautiful experience. It allows you to grow towards polarity and enlightenment. Would you consider staying the night in the cemetery alone?
Yes.
Or a morgue?
Yes.
The cemetery I've done. The morgue, I think I might have issues with personally, only because I've never really witnessed death. Do you know what I mean?
See, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but you've been in the midst of death, being a war veteran and all. I think that you've come to understand it and
probably
embrace it a little more than...
I don't think the morgue bothers me, but then again, most of my family was morticians.
Yeah, you come from a line of morticians. I don't know, to be honest. I'm one of these people who I think I'd be okay with it, but I'm not entirely sure until placed in a situation where, I think my imagination might
would you sleep?
I would do it, but I think my imagination would get the best
Would
of
you
me.
sleep in an old mausoleum?
Oh, yeah, totally. I already kind of have. In Sydney, we had outside of Sydney, actually, we had these really amazing old cemeteries. that had some pretty gargoyle-ish mausoleums. Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. The old train stations used to run outside, so we used to have train stations called mortuary station, and the trains used to transport the bodies to the cemeteries from the trains. Yeah. Train stations. That's cool. Anyway, would you sleep in a mausoleum or an old one? Yeah, we already discussed that.
Eventually, all that will have to be necessary. If you're actually going to take the necromantic practice on,
Yeah.
you will have to do all
Yeah.
of it. Eventually. Baby steps, but eventually.
I mean, there's a whole process to even getting to that point, So, but anyway, let's go back to the baby steps of what Leilah was talking about. Let's start with staying the night in a cemetery, not in your car, but, actually in the cemetery. There are cemeteries out there that you could have the opportunity to do that in. I think Cemetery has one that's open like 24/7. I mean, cemetery. San Diego.
San Diego does in the old town.
Yeah, in the old town.
Ojai?
Oh, yeah, that little tiny one.
That's
right?
the one I went to sleep in.
Right. I had a nifty one just down the road from where I lived in Newtown.
Mm-hmm. Ojai has an artist one that you could sleep in. Nobody ever goes there.
Oh, that beautiful old one. Yeah. Oh, the problem with that one is that sometimes there's a lot of there's a few questionable people that hang around. So it's not. I'd be more wary of the living.
Well, yeah.
Rather than the dead at that point.
Yeah.
Because, there's some shady people that hang around that one at times. And then there's the cemetery park in Ventura, although, there are houses across the street from that I become a little disturbed, those residences. Remember they used to always call the cops on us. Yeah, when we'll go hunting. Anyway, but find a cemetery that is not privately owned, or one that you can approach, basically. So explain that you are conquering a fear of death and dying, and simply want to sleep on the grounds of the cemetery.
It can, you might get a strange look here or there. You may be told no, but the worst thing that they can tell you is no.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So.
And you'd be surprised how many of the small cemeteries would say yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you experienced that?
I used to tell graveyards that I was trying to conquer a fear.
All right.
And they'd let me stay. They'd let me sleep there overnight.
Because I think I personally would just. I mean, when I've done it, I've just done it. I wouldn't. I don't think.
Well, I did it to the ones that were closed up, that were secured. That way, I could actually, when I was first doing it, could be in a secured ground that had a groundskeeper, so I wouldn't have to worry about sketchy people.
All right. Okay, I understand that. Okay. So. Okay. Well, anyway, what else? Churchyards?
Yeah.
Another good place, as are places from the Old West, time frames.
Well, like Calico, you could go up there to Old Boot Hill.
Yeah. Again, that's what I'm saying. I've seen some odd people hanging around, so maybe they're odd like they think we're odd. I don't know.
Really, I mean, they're looking at you and you're bedding down with the dead. They're probably, I've got a feeling you're going to scare them more.
Right.
Now, after having done this, you can then begin to slowly finish the process by sleeping in an old-time mausoleum, and then the next thing you want to do is actually connect with the energy out there that's of the shadow embraced death energy. And as with any ritualistic working, you need to have a private place, one that you feel comfortable and safe, but a bit secluded. Set up your altar. Remember that this altar is going to be a little bit different. You're going to make like an altar with earth or stone. You want to make it really as simplistic as you can. Place some jasmine oil and white candles with jasmine oil. Lay in like a death-style position.
Which is like, what would you say? It's almost like the God position.
It's almost like the Osiris God position with your arms crossed across your chest.
Yeah.
Some people do it with their hands folded, intertwined on their things, on their chest. Now lay in see the sky open up like a doorway or curtain, and allow yourself to drift through the veils. Let yourself go there, and it's going to be a bit offsetting at first, but it's where you need to go. And some people I've read that they've actually experienced things like they're about to black out.
Right. Yeah.
And the thing is go. Mm-hmm. Go.
Yeah. Let it flow. Yeah.
Don't fight it. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. So necromantic ritual and practicing is one of the most beautiful systems of magic that one can embrace. As with everything else that we teach, we suggest you keep yourself well-rounded. Basically, like every system can offer you something that will help you grow. This system is no different. However, I have to tell you, this system is also a hard system, as it is letting go of the ultimate fear.
The ultimate fear.
Yeah. So we like to work with Santísima Muerte, and the name literally translates to, Saint Death.
Or Holy Death.
Holy Death, which is what I prefer to use. So in the Mexican culture, since the pre-Columbian era, they've maintained a certain reverence towards death, which can be seen in the widespread Mexican celebration of the Day of the Dead. Catholic elements of that celebration include the use of skeletons, the sugar skulls as well. Yeah. To remind people of their mortality, Santa Muerte generally appears as a skeletal figure clad in a long robe and carrying one or more objects, usually the scythe or a globe. And the robe is more often than not, white, but images of this figure vary from person to person, according to the rite being performed or the petition of the devotee. As the cult of, and we're not saying cult in a negative sense, of Santa Muerte was kind of silent until recently. Most prayers and other rites are done privately in the home. However, for the past 10 years or so, worship has become more public, especially in Mexico City. Hey, especially in California.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. And the cult is, I hate saying the cult.
Yeah. The followers.
The following is, it's always condemned by the Catholic Church.
Well, and you know why? Because the drug dealers use it, and it's a wrong way of using it.
And the gangbangers, and Anyway, that's another story. But it's firmly entrenched among Mexico's lower classes, as we said. So, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well, you know what? They've seen the most death. So they would be embracing it the most.
And I guess they do hold a certain respect for it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've noticed here in LA, if they see you wearing, like, say, a Muerte pendant, they kind of nod at you, like, it's kind of like a silent understanding.
And here's the thing, of all the necromantic practices, Muerte has made it the most accessible and acceptable.
Yeah, yeah. It hasn't been since Victorian times, really.
No.
Since death has been embraced.
Yeah, exactly.
And something not to be feared.
Right.
Well,
she's growing. It's the followers of Santísima Muerte are actually growing, and it's great because if people are actually doing the actual work, then they are actually facing their shadows. I thought the problem I have with it is that for the most part, you're grabbing the small statues. You have no idea why.
Right.
It just is something. It's a fad. It's new. It's you see all the
I definitely got a better understanding of it when I came to the U.S.
Yes,
I got to admit. You know what I mean? So I actually used to collect those Mexican Day of the Dead figurines and pay a small fortune for them. But since coming to California, it's opened me up a great deal.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So just even statistically, if you want to know about it, for the last past 10 or 20 years, there's 2 million plus followers.
Yeah.
So. In the U.S. alone,
starting to get there now. Santa Muerte is also, referred to as the Lady of the Shadows,
right? And
the White Lady and the Black Lady, Holy Girl, and the Skinny One.
I have never heard of the Skinny One.
And her images are really individualistic and personal, and no two are exactly the same, and we know that because we own.
Oh, like
dozens, including one that's almost that's what comes up to my shoulder.
Yeah,
almost.
that one we actually personally adorned and dressed ourselves. Like we actually covered her robes in a deep red velvet, lace shawl, personalized jewelry. Even took her her owl and
put owl feathers on it.
Put actual owl feathers.
Thanks to the Shumas
that
tribe.
were gifted to us from the Shumas tribe here in California.
Now I want to cover just why because people have this image and and they need to really bond on why she looks the way she looks.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and cover some of that.
All right.
And that is you always hear in long robes or a long dress covered from head to feet with only the face and hands showing, and this symbolizes how people hide their true selves from the rest of the world. Isn't that about right? Mm-hmm. And the robe or dress covers the skeletal figure like flesh covers the bone of the living. So really, it's really about how we hide ourselves inside ourselves. Mm-hmm. Both are said to eventually fall away, and the most common image is in a robe with a scythe. My leg is hurting so bad.
No.
Scythe in the right hand and the globe in the left. The robed image of Santa Muerte looks a bit like the Virgin of Guadalupe. However, there are variations to the robe's colors and the interpretations of the robe colors and so on. And the two most common objects in her hand is the scythe and the globe. Now, the scythe can symbolize the cutting of negative energies or influences, but also a harvesting tool. Mm-hmm. It symbolizes a hope and prosperity. And a lot of people think that it's like a killing thing, and it isn't. It isn't.
A lot of people use Muerte for money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a big money goddess, and it's funny because she's the death goddess. And it's just an odd thing, and it can represent the moment of death when the scythe is said to cut a silver thread. Now, the scythe has a long handle, indicating that it can reach anywhere. The globe represents death's dominion, and can be seen as a kind of tomb to which we all return. Having the world in her hand also symbolizes vast power. Other objects that can appear with the image of Santa Muerte include scales, an hourglass, an owl like I have, and I've even seen her with an oil lamp. Mm-hmm. Now, the scales allude to equity, justice, and impartiality, as well as divine will. An hourglass indicates the time of life on earth. It represents the belief that death is not the end, but rather the beginning of something new, as the hourglass can be turned to start over. The hourglass also denotes her relationship with time, as well as the worlds above and below, and it symbolizes patience. I'll bet you a lot of people don't know her how chock-a-block full she is of symbols. Symbolism. Oh,
I know, it's one of those days.
It wouldn't be one of those days if the cat hadn't bit my leg and given a huge tetanus infection.
Don't step on her tail.
Don't lay in front of me when I'm walking. Now, the owl symbolizes her ability to navigate the darkness. Mm-hmm. And her wisdom. The owl is also said to act as a messenger.
Right.
A lamp symbolizes the intelligence and spirit, to light the way through the darkness of ignorance and doubt. Now, you all have to get a personal relationship with death.
You should.
You should. If you're really going to do this, then there's really not much that we can say on how to exactly lead you. We've given you the steps on how to become comfortable, on how to connect. Mm-hmm. We've given you the idea of the safest one, that the one that's most accessible is not the safest one, but the most accessible, which is Santísima Muerte.
And she tends to guide you. I mean, she
tends to be more personal and compassionate and gentle with you.
Yeah.
Because most people go to her first.
Yeah.
And then you have the Gettys, of course, for voodoo. If anybody listened to the voodoo show, the Gettys. And Bellon Cemetery and all that. It really is something that's personal. Now, here's what we need to do. We need to listen to another song while I try to figure out how to set my tongue right. And when we come back, we're going to end the show with a novena of 9 days. It's a 9-day novena, and to the Holy Death, to work with her, and it's a wonderful prayer and ritual. And when we come back, we're going to give that to you guys, and we hope that you will enjoy it just as much as we do working with her. Anyway, here is Demonica and the Darklings. Every day is Halloween. When we come back, we'll finish this up with a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful prayer ritual that you can do for 9 days. Welcome back to Occultist Radio on PQRN, ParaQuest Radio Network. We are so proud of this station.
Okay, so
teach us, Vicky.
Let's get into this. If you want, you can pick up what we call 7-day novenas here in the US. They're glass, like 10-inch tall, probably glass covered candles. And there's a company here that makes one to the Holy Death. It either says Holy Death or Santísima Muerte on it. So,
or you can just use the multicolored one.
Or multicolored one, Whatever, just a candle at this point. So, okay, so the first day, here we go.
This is the prayer that you would say while lighting the candle?
Yeah, light the candle and recite this. Most holy death, the favors that you have to grant me, make me overcome all difficulties so that for me nothing is impossible. No obstacles, barriers, no enemies, and no one does me any harm. That everyone is my friend, and that I am victorious in all my dealings and things I do. May my house be filled with all the good virtues of your protection.
On the second, you said so you'd let the candle burn. On the second day, you would relight
and blow it
candle,
out, obviously, yeah.
And you would say, Death Saint, my great treasure, never go away from me at any time. You ate bread and you gave me bread. And as you are the powerful owner of the dark mansion of life and of darkness, I want you to grant me the favor that, and you can say somebody's name, is at my feet, humiliated and repentant, and that he never leaves my side when I need him, and that you make me get what was promised to me.
So once again, blow out the candle. The next day, the conqueror who on the cross was conquered, conquer, and here you insert your name, or whoever's name, that he is overcome by me. In the name of God, you are a ferocious animal. You will come back to me as a tame sheep, mild as the rosemary flower. Adored death, I implore you earnestly that with this titanic force that God gave you, instill in so-and-so's heart, that he has eyes for no one but me, or she, obviously,
right,
and that I am his, her, everything, that you grant me this which I ask, having great faith in this novena, that I light a candle every Tuesday of every week at 12 midnight.
Then on the fourth day, dear Death, I ask you with all my heart that as God made you immortal and the powerful owner and queen of the darkness, unknown hereafter, that with your great powers, which you have over all mortals, make so-and-so unable to eat at any table or sit in any chair, and grant that they have no peace. I wish that they become obliged to be humbled and devoted at my feet, and that they never again go away from me.
On the fifth day, glorious and powerful death, taking advantage of your kindness as my protector and owner, I ask this favor. As the invincible madam that you are, I beg that you make so-and-so, so that she can't enjoy strolling around, so that she can't walk or eat with any other man or woman, or sleep unless he or she is at my side. Grant that his or her thoughts are about me only by his or her own choice, and that she gives me the happiness of having all of her love.
The thing is that Muerte does a lot of love stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it. And it really is, when you embrace death, you can really find the beauty of getting everything that you want. Anyway, on the sixth day, relight the candle. O sovereign lady, in that the Holy Trinity and our eternal Father blinded the life of all mortals to the fact that you will come to everyone sooner or later, whether rich or poor or in youth, who does to us all the same, old, young, child. We enter the domain of death when God decrees, and I implore you that I have much love with me, not just for physical beauty, but also for my soul, and that this comes to me with faithfulness and submissiveness, kneeling at my feet, so that I may embrace all the beauty and love that life has.
Liberate me from all...
Oh, you're on the 7th day.
Oh, on the 7th day. I'm kind of assuming everyone was up to speed. Okay, on the 7th day. Liberate me from all evil, and with the titanic power with which God endowed you, make it so that we enjoy eternal heavenly nights and days, nightless days. Protector and owner, I beg you to grant me the favors I request in these prayers.
And now here's where you can put your personal prayers in.
Mm-hmm.
On the 8th day, miraculous and majestic death. I ask that you, with your immense power, you return to me that which I have lost. Don't let this go for one more minute. Be sociable or tranquil with anyone that they come across, neither with friends nor with the others. Then may they be at ease. Grant that while sleeping, those that I wish think of me, and that they listen to the words I say to you in their sleep. And that person does what I ask.
Okay, and on the final day, blessed protector death, by the virtues that God gave you, I ask that you free me from all evil, danger, and sickness, and that instead you give me luck, health, happiness, and money, that you give me friends and freedom from my enemies.
And about this time you can ask for anything specific.
Yeah, and you insert, insert whatever it is that you need. And like, say for instance, because this is like a constant for most people. Say you're trying to entice someone, making so-and-so, come before me, humbled, to ask my forgiveness, humble as a sheep, knowing promises, always loving and submissive. That's just an example. So,
these are really intense prayers.
Yeah, they're totally intense prayers.
And they can be very personal, and you don't have to take just what we said. Those are just the foundational suggestions.
Yeah, this one was more along the lines of bringing someone to you, and overcoming an enemy, obstacles and
protection,
yeah,
and to
so
give you
it
help.
Shows you how you can utilize it to,
the depths, the many faces of
facets,
the facets of the entity of death. And people are so afraid of it, and once you let go of that fear and you embrace these shadows, the wonderful and beautiful things that come flying at you is just immense.
Yeah.
Now,
so, like I said, like we always say, there's a polarity to living.
Yeah.
And in Victorian times, life and death was, synonymous. There wasn't a separation because it was a part of life.
Yeah, and they embraced it.
And they embraced it. And these last decades, we've so sanitized it, and we've made it a hush topic, that we've become unbalanced, and it is a great undoing to a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It disempowers them.
It does. It's made them slaves.
A great deal. Yeah.
It has made you a slave to your fear.
And why is it when you see those are dying, they form a beauteous expression on their face as they are slipping away? If that's any indication.
Yeah.
Now
you know what? Next week, we're going to do something a little different. You know that? We're going to kind of tread on a wee bit of territory that most occult
you mean the
shows may not actually do. We are going to show how some more of the we're still going to keep continuing to embrace some darkness and some other parts of ourselves that we normally are told to oppress.
Parts of our psyches,
parts of our psyches. And what we're going to do is that we have the honor of having one of the few. Yeah, you count it on one hand. I could lose fingers and still count it on one hand.
Yeah.
How many people actually do this? And here's what it is. We're going to have the sadistic leather nun, but we're having Miss Mina come onto the show. Now she is actually a BDSM, and I say that slowly because there is such a great difference and and a separation of the 4 letters, and because all of the, you have those 4 letters as an individual lifestyle, and then you have the 4 letters as any combination thereof.
Right.
And she's going to come in and she is going to talk about the ritualistic nature of exploring the darker side of the sexuality. It's almost like a sex magic show,
right,
using any of those combinations thereof, or any singular letter. And she's going to tell us about how it works in magic and the whole ritualistic form of it. And she's going to clear up a lot of misconceptions that BDSM is one lifestyle. And it can be, but you can count it on one hand.
It's a very extreme, disciplined thing.
Yeah.
So.
And this is really going to show I wanted to do a show on sex magic.
Right.
And there are several things. And Vic, you said that you wanted one also. And that we were just trying to figure out how to approach it, and who to approach it with.
Yeah, and Mina's been a customer of the store for
and a friend of the clubs.
And a friend,
and
forever. So we totally trusted
her. And plus we know the scene ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we decided that it would be the best way to go is to have to do actually a sex magic show this way.
Yeah.
And so we're actually going to bring you guys a sex magic show using the BDSM lifestyle and the ritualistic nature of the discipline of the exploring of the dark psyche of sexuality. And I think that's going to be a really good show, Vic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anyway, thank you all for joining us on another episode of Occultist Radio. We appreciate everybody coming in. It's been a great show. I've had fun.
Absolutely.
You've had fun?
I've had a lot of fun.
The bunnies have had fun. Revmo is dancing in his cage, the hula.
I don't know about that, but...
but we'll see you guys next week. It's going to be...
Yeah, it's going to be an enlightening show. And probably an eye-opening show. A mind-expanding show. I don't know.
Well, again, we're staying in the format of embracing the darker self.
Yeah.
And the darker psyches.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Got anything else you want to say?
It's not a question. No. I was just answering someone on the board.
She didn't hit enter.
That's because I wasn't done. So we'll check you on next week.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and leave them with, like we normally do, a great track of something, right? I'm looking for something. Let's go with Snow White. What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's go with Europa. And we'll see you next week. Thank you guys for joining in.